This is me playing at the biggest tournament you can play as an amateur. And somehow my 849 rated ass qualified. So let's talk about the event and what led up to it. Because frankly, it was crazy. If you want to snag one of the new MVP Detours or Defies, or one of Simon's Pixels, or you like to roll the dice on the Gyropalooza box, you can get all that and more on my site with pre-orders for the Gyropalooza starting today. So start the Christmas season off right. You can find all of it and more at wildrunsdiscgolf.com. So with that, let's get back to my failures. All right, so having played some of these events in the past, I will say they ran very well. No critiques to be made, but obviously there is a bit of a weird situation where you can qualify with a one-round tournament that could frankly be anywhere. And when I say literally, I mean literally anywhere. This 9-hole that was converted into an 18-hole this year, which is effectively my home course, was one of the qualifying events. So on a snowy January round, I played very mid golf, very just amateur. I've played so much better, but on a course where pros could easily go 18 under, I scored 3 under, and that was good enough to get into a playoff. And then I subsequently lost that playoff with a terrible first shot. But with the ruling and stipulations of you just have to tie for the win and you become a qualifier for the national championship, I, Wild Runs, was able to qualify as a person that somewhat sucks at disc golf. And let me remind you, this is in January, so I just wrapped up this event in November. And you may be saying, well, yeah, you probably improved a little bit. Nope, didn't really improve, probably got a little bit worse, confidence a little bit lower. My distance is definitely improving.
But I got 450. 450, that is my furthest throw.
But still very minute changes have been made. So that leads me to this event in Austin, the national championship for all amateurs that qualify in this series. And in this event, there are 850 players. That is insane for an event. And with my division MA1, there was 215 players. And let me remind you what my current rating is, 848, which is terrible. I don't like that, but it is what it is, 848.
You can't escape me!
And I'm up against players that are 1,000 rated. So these players could literally be on the pro tour for like a 5th or 6th card at like Des Moines Challenge. That could easily happen. But because they haven't taken cash, they are still quote unquote amateur. And coming into this, I didn't really think about the implications of that because I was like, I'm gonna suck, who really cares? Just gonna have fun. But it is so intimidating to play against players that finished like 120th and they are leaps and bounds better than you. But what's even crazier is that a 1,000 rated player didn't even finish first. We have a 963 rated Jaden Torres beating that 1,000 rated player in a playoff round, which feels wild. And you may be over there being like, yeah, I bet the rounds weren't even really that good. Okay, well, let me give you the ratings per round. First round, there was 2 1025s. Second round, there was a 1038. Third round, a measly 1,009. Terrible, kind of embarrassing, really. And then the final round with the player that went into the playoff was a 1032. So these really are rounds that could get you any top 10 finish on the pro tour. So when they say this is the amateur championship, they're using very loose terms here. And in my first round, I played with a player, Maxwell Harrison, probably somebody you'll never hear about, but he finished 124th. And let me tell you, his forehands were immaculate. His putting was really good. His whole game was filled with confidence. And even this dominant player finished 124th. So that leads me to me, Wild Runs.
Please clap.
Having the smallest bit of confidence going into this, I thought maybe I'd do all right, but quickly I learned so much of my game is not polished. It's not where it needs to be. My forehands were going nose up immediately. My putts felt like a shaky toddler. There was no coherence in any part of my game. And so that leads me to a plus 82 on the tournament with an 819 rated event, with my highest being 855.
Not good.
Literally some of the worst rounds I've ever had, and I've probably had 200 tournament rounds. But let's back it up just a few days earlier, because that is where the craziness all started. I was on my way to drop off my dog at boarding, and literally 2 minutes into a 10-hour drive, I was met with tornado sirens. And that's because 2 tornadoes landed in my area as I was leaving for the event. So I quickly skirted back home, made sure I was safe, and luckily there was no damage. But that meant that I was unable to leave until the day before the event, and so I was in my car for 10 hours the following day, leaving me unable to look at any part of these courses. Ultimately, don't even think it would have mattered that much, but it just added to the extra amount of stress that I was putting on myself. And to go along with that, these players being such a high echelon above my skill level, that really fractures any sense of confidence I have. And so I started off pretty rough with a triple on hole 1. It never really got better from there. A double on hole 7, a quad on hole 11, and I ended it with a triple, which honestly wasn't even the worst because it is a very difficult hole, and I did slip and fall my upshot, which went out of bounds on hole 18, so it is kind of a wash, but still a very awful round for a course that I could easily get +6, +7 if I was playing casually. But I did have two very redeeming shots with a near ace run on hole 10 and a great turnover line on hole 17 that made the island. But after this moment, I knew the tournament was going to be a huge wash, and I just had to keep on going and string any amount of confidence that I possibly could. But then it all got so much worse, where I carded 3 triples and 1 quadruple bogey. Looking back on this, I don't even know how I just kept on going. There were a lot of trees, there was a couple of 3-putts, but honestly I felt like it was just uncommitted backhands that would hyzer out immediately, forehands that would cut roll right out of my hand, and upshots that felt like they were so uncommitted they were destined for failure. Now these subsequent next 2 rounds were much better. I felt much more confident in my game, and I felt like it was all just chill. I knew it ultimately did not matter because I was so far behind everybody, but I did improve 4 strokes at the first course, Sprinkle Valley, even with a triple to end it and no birdies, and 8 strokes better at the second course, Roy G, even with another quadruple bogey. And really by the end of it, my only goal was to get a better round than some other people. And I beat 2 people, so I guess that's kind of good. But before we get to some recaps about this whole event, I will say it was so incredibly engaging to talk to all these players that really do care about the sport and have come from all over. There were players from California, Colorado, Alaska, Canada, literally every place in the US and Canada. People were willing to fly to Austin to play this event. And so hearing all these players that really do care about the sport in a way that very few people in my area really do, it was very interesting and very fun to be a part of. And to go along with that, there was a lot of fan experiences with Alden, Ezra, and Isaac Robinson, Gavin Babcock, and of course, Gannon Buhr. Like a distance competition, putting competition, and a really cool doubles event where you could play against the pros, which definitely felt like an experience that I've never seen on the Pro Tour.
We appreciate it. There might be cars down there too close to the road.
Let's get back to my failures. So realistically, I felt like I could have gotten a lot better in this entire event. I felt like so much of my game was just not where it needed to be. And it really felt like if I just grinded the previous month on putting, backhand and forehand fairway hits, and reliable upshots, I would have done so much better. But I haven't really mentioned it yet, but so much of my bogeys in this entire event were upshots that were uncommitted or overcommitted, and they turned an easy par into a circle 2 putt, which I missed. I think I probably ended up having like 15 circle 2 putts, and I made 0 of them, which ultimately I feel fine about. But the truly upsetting part was that these easy upshots turned into bogeys when they absolutely did not need to. And you may be saying like, yeah, you shanked your upshot, but like, shouldn't we be going for birdies? Well, even the top players still didn't really birdie that often on these courses. Specifically Roy G being such a distance level course, it is very difficult to even get to the basket, let alone circle 1, circle 2. But let's bring you the stats throughout my entire event because it looks pretty grim. I had 18 holes of double or worse. So that basically means that throughout the entire event, there was a whole round of holes where I not only lost 2 strokes, but probably 3 or 4. So obviously that is a major factor to why I had such a terrible round. And while a lot of those were 3 putts, a lot of them were backhands that were uncommitted and they were super narrow wooded lines. And so they would hit a tree early, get way out of position, and then I would just be playing army golf, trying to inch my way forward little by little, shot by shot. But the biggest thing that really hurts to see is my bogey percentage. So brutal, but it's just where I'm at. I took a 75% of holes where I did bogey or worse. So that means that 50% of my entire event was a bogey. And I haven't really mentioned it yet, but these courses, while they are difficult, they do not need to be bogeyed by any means. Besides a couple of tricky landing zone holes that are really difficult, it's kind of like a 50-50 if you get in or out. Besides those holes that equate to like 1 hole per round, there really aren't any other holes that are just impossible to get pars on. And so in a bit of an ironic twist, my only birdies were that first round where I felt so shaky, so uncomfortable. So that leads me to my final score, plus 82, 9 strokes worse than the second to last person. And even the other players that I played with that I thought were really good, they finished like 204, 203. But so that leads me to my final goal, and that is improvement. I think everyone is so critical about form and technique, but here in this moment, I'm asking for raw criticism and technique improvements that I can make to my game to hopefully not have this happen again. It is officially the off season, so let's try to to all rework our forms, starting with mine. I would love to hear what you think about my positioning, where my X step is going wrong, where my fall through is kind of overcorrecting or I'm rounding, how I can restructure my forehands to not look so kind of wobbly, spaghetti nonsense. I'm asking for raw criticism, and I know people are gonna be vicious, but I'm okay with that. I'm asking for it because I want to feel like all the parts of my game are at least average. But right now it feels like all of it's kind of bad, because honestly, it felt like it wasn't even until like hole 16, 17 of my final round that I really felt like I had momentum and I felt like I had confidence in my throw. So in addition to form technique advice, I'd also love to hear what you guys have for your own techniques to manage stress in these high stress tournament rounds where it all feels like your entire game could fall apart in a moment's notice. So that is how I ended up dead last at the biggest amateur championship of the entire season. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit doom and gloom, but that's how disc golf goes sometimes. It's not always this positive trajectory where things are just always improving, you're always getting better and better. Sometimes we have a huge regression, and I felt like that was me this season. But hopefully everybody out there can relate to having huge failures, and we can all restructure our form in the offseason to become that much better of a player in 2025. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit longer, but with that, I'd love to know what you guys think about form improvements for my game. And if you want to snag your own MVP Defy or Detour, or the new Lazat Pixel, or pre-order your own Gyropalooza box, you can get all of that and more at wildrunsdiscgolf.com and help support this channel. So with that, Wild Runs, signing out, peace. Oh boy, brutal. Brutal, man. I cannot believe I got dead last. Dead last. 215 players. Oh, that sucks.